Wow, would you look at that? I just reached 300 subscribers. Now, as a whole, that is a lot. A lot of people. 100 was just small, but times 3, now that's another story. People would say that 1,000 is a lot of people, but just having 300 subscribers in general is quite massive in and of itself. And even more so, you get frightened more and more when the numbers go higher, but at the same time, more grateful that people are enjoying your content. But with all this being said and done, I have just reached 300 subscribers, and in general, that's not a big or bad thing. And I should be very grateful of it, of course. But for why I like the movie Zootopia and why I have been producing it a lot is mostly in relation with one thing alone: the concept. Now, one good example of why I like the concept is mostly the cars. Many of the vehicles are different size for different species of mammals. Most of them can be small, while others basically be the size of a giraffe. And the giraffe car in general is the one thing that I question the most. How tall is that thing? Like, seriously, how tall is the giraffe car? That's what I love about questioning things and why I love about this movie. I like the concept, and I love questioning things. Another reason is basically the scrapped characters. Most of the scrapped characters that you see were mostly friends of Nick. Clawhauser is basically not a police officer, but instead he's just a friend of Nick. Same as for a honey badger, which is the most simplest name I have ever heard, as one of friends of Nick Wilde. There's also the room for me to try to work on a movie independently. As if you watch my video of me in detailed look of why I like the concept of Zootopia, is mostly because I want to see if I can use the concept that hasn't been produced to make a movie into creating a trilogy of movies. Now, that is an interesting thing to hear from me. A trilogy? Why would you want to make a trilogy of one movie that came out in 2016? Well, I would love to answer that question. The reason for why I want to make a trilogy of the concept of Zootopia is mostly in relation of world building. You see, I always love to world build movies, or TV shows and video games in general. Some TV shows and movies that have one season or 2 seasons and has potential in growing, I always question more about it and how much answers they haven't answered. A good example, of course, is a UK TV show called Zootopia, which, if you couldn't guess, Zootopia. With that bad joke out of the side, I really like Zootopia because it's very grim and dark, and at the same time has multiple characteristics and different plots that go align with the whole plot of the story. Who is basically controlling the government in producing a virus that kills basically like 2/3 of the population. What is the reason for this? What's the backstory of the main villain? Why are we doing this? Why are we being chased after the government even though that we're just trying to do good? Are we even doing the right thing? That's a lot of interesting questions that the TV show explains and try to answer. It gave only 2 seasons to answer all of them, but at the same time, it gave even more questions after it's done. Another example of a TV show that has 1 season, or maybe 2, that has world building upon of it is Tron Uprising. For Tron Uprising, we basically follow a program that was just a mechanic and then he is in the footsteps of Tron himself, basically working with him and in general, basically saving the city of Argon. And in general, the interactions of Tron and Beck, the main character, and his focus on dealing with being Tron and at the same time, basically his friends and family at the mechanic shop is a great thing because it's your day-to-day life as a programmer and at the same time, you're trying to have a normal life with Clue's army slowly lurking upon the city of Argon. And that's what I love about Tron Legacy. It basically built upon the city of Argon and focusing on the idea that there was a revolution that was going to happen before Clue come by, and basically season 2 is going to have an epic, interesting storyline. But unfortunately, there wasn't much to answer upon. There has been only a few questions and in general, a few things about Tron that has been released to the public. And in general, Tron Legacy and Tron itself has been docile. Another example of things that I really like, but at the same time has not that much built upon it, is Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Mirror's Edge is most commonly known for its aesthetic, and in general, that's okay, but at the same time, its city is also even more interesting for me. I always love how it looks, and at the same time, I always want to learn more about this controlled government that has been focused upon in the story. Unfortunately, it hasn't been built upon, and even more, they've rebooted the entire series to focus more upon like the rise of Faith Connor and the City of Glass. And it's not a bad idea, but it kind of failed on itself by just rebooting it. It would have been more better if they had developed more upon the city itself instead of making a new city, Glass City. Not saying that Glass City is a bad city. The aesthetic and in general, its skyscrapers are just what I love about Mirror's Edge. Skyscrapers and just environment and aesthetic. With all those examples out of the way, you get a good explanation of why I like the concept of Zootopia. It's mostly in relation with its characters that have been scratched out of the movie, the aesthetic that it had produced, and its story that is in relation with the tame collar itself. Most of these things that really helped upon create the concept, a different identity of Zootopia itself, is what I really want to do in creating a trilogy of the concept. But we have to look upon why it was a concept in and of itself. The reason it was a concept was mostly it had more focused upon discrimination, mostly with the tame collar, of course. They had to remove the tame collar to make it more kid-friendly, and at the same time try to explain the message about discrimination and stereotypicalization. And in general, they did what they had to do to make it more kid-friendly. They basically changed the main character to Judy Hopps, and they had to change the entire messaging of the movie. They made it more about you can try anything, but at the same time, not everyone can basically try everything, and not all cities are the best. You can do what you can to make everything better, but at the same time, sometimes doing something better doesn't really get you to make everything better. It makes it sometimes worse. And that message in general is a good message. They did what they could to make it more kid-friendly and at the same time serious. And I'm very grateful that it came that way. But with this revitalization of the movie and the concept itself, they basically left out a few more things that I feel like could build upon World of Zootopia as a whole. And that is basically the interactions of predator and prey. In the concept, they mostly showed that prey were afraid of predators, and you could obviously be like, yeah, that's true. Like, look at the animals, how they interact in today's time. Predators go after prey because, they're food. But I feel like they could build upon that more. Like, think about this. Predators basically have to survive and go by instincts. That goes for the same by prey. Some prey even eat themselves, cannibalism. And that's an interesting idea to think back. Predators and prey looking back at their history and realizing that they were both horrible and in general not decent. And that goes for the same of how we see our history in today's time. We look back at everything that one side did bad, but at the same time the other side did it bad too. And that's what I want to build off of this concept. The idea that the oppressed basically become the oppressor and they become more vocal. It's an interesting idea that I'm not sure many will understand, but at the same time can look at as a potential idea of what I want to see in this trilogy that I want to produce. Another example of world building of Zootopia is basically what is outside of Zootopia the city and Bunny Burrows. We only seen Bunny Burrows, which is like a county city, and Zootopia, which is basically like Manhattan, San Francisco, or Chicago, if you will. And when I hear the word Zootopia, I mostly think of like a nation. A good example of them is Ethiopia, Yugoslavia, and Lithuania. They have an at the end of them. And sometimes there are some cities that have the word or topia at the end of it. But it's just feels more like a nation. Like, think about this. Zootopia could be a nation that have a city that has all 4 districts. And there's other nations that's outside of the nation of Zootopia that has like only 2 or 3 districts that is for comfortability of different type of species of mammals. One good example could be that there's a city that has like the tundra district and the rainforest district, but does not have the urban district or the Sahara district. That is a good example of world building that Zootopia is a utopia for every species species of animal, but at the same time, it's a controlled government that is afraid of predator. That's a good idea of world building that I think of. We can also put more into the idea that Zootopia is a capital while Bunny Burrows is a state or a district. For example, there's multiple districts in France, while Paris is basically the capital of France. So Zootopia could basically be the capital of
France,
while there's other districts outside of Paris that is different species of mammals. For example, Badgeropolis, which is full of badgers, which is not a real city in the movie, but it's just an idea in mind, could be just full of badgers, and it's a district, a part of the nation of Zootopia. It could be in an interesting way to basically make different type of cities with species names in it. With all that I say about the world building of Zootopia, it's more of a complex way of seeing how different type of species come together in a capitalistic city. Like, I mostly am into the idea that Zootopia isn't just about animals, but instead it's about like a world like ours, but in it just with animals. But instead, with how the way people are seeing it, it's mostly just, oh, it's the world of animals. And this is not creative ideas, and in general, if you would say it's creative ideas, go ahead. It's very subjective in some manners, but at the same time, I want to see more of world building by the fans, not just stories that are just focused on two characters and just have the city name in it. That is not basically world building, it's mostly just fan building, in my opinion. But take that sentence as you will, as a grain of salt. And for my final reason of why I am interested in the movie Zootopia and the concept of Zootopia itself is mostly I want to become a film director. I haven't really expressed my interest in becoming a film director on this channel, but with me explaining my interest in Zootopia's concept and the movie itself, it'll give me a chance in showing how capable I am at becoming a director. With me using Zootopia's concept and trying to expand upon it and making it more interesting, I could probably show how capable I am at creating major film. If I start off with a fan movie, I could probably make an independent film, or even more, I could work for Universal or even Disney in making movies that have different ideas and like different worlds and take place. I have so many ideas of movies that are somewhat based off of just small things in my life that in general could be possible movie. Right now, I just want to start off with a concept that has been scratched off, but at the same time has so much potential in it. With all that being said and done, that's all I have to really say about why I am interested in Zootopia and Zootopia's concept as a whole. This whole video of me reaching 300 subscribers and expressing my interest of Zootopia and world building as a whole, I just really am very thankful that I'm here at 300 subscribers, 300 people as a whole. That is a lot of people. Compared to people that have 1 million subscribers, oh, they say that's nothing or something major, but like 300, just like in a couple of months is like so crazy to see. And in general, if you guys want to see more of me becoming a film director or independently creative a YouTube channel that's mostly for films, say it in the comments. I really want to hear what you want to see out of this YouTube channel. This channel is mostly just here to basically tell what I want to do or what I want to post. But with all that being said and done, I appreciate you all being here and coming to the end of this video. Thank you.